Have you ever been intimidated by cooking lamb chops, but you love lamb, and you would prefer that your lamb come out absolutely perfect every time, kind of looking like that? Well, this is a crash course in sous vide lamb chops and lamb rack. We're going to cover how to cook sous vide chops, how to cook a sous vide rack, and especially what to do with the fat cap if it is still attached to your rack. So, this lamb is from my favorite lamb and goat farm that I've been working with for almost 10 years now. It's called Shepherd's Song Farm. It's all grass fed, 100% heirloom meat breeds of lamb. And most of the lamb in the United States is actually from hair sheep. It's a byproduct of the wool industry, and that lamb is more gamey. So grass fed lamb is also going to taste a lot more mild. Anyway, you can see that I took off the kind of membrane off of the bottom of the ribs, and this may or may not be attached to your lamb rack, but this is the fat cap. And I took off half of the fat cap here. You can see where it attaches to the shoulder. There's a little bit where it is not it's not present. You can take the whole thing off the entire rack of lamb, and you can cook that into bacon, actually. What I'm doing here is I'm just kind of Frenching the bones. It's not perfect, but I removed the meat from between the bones. That I like to do. You want to do this because it's just easier to cook. The fat cap is really fatty. If you were to leave the fat cap on, it has a different cooking time than the loin. So it's going to be tough too. It's going to be tough and fatty. And they're just a lot more difficult to cook. There's going to be a lot of fat. So we're going to save that fat cap. I'm going to cook half of it as a rack, and I'm going to cook half of this as chops, because you can do it both ways, kind of depending on what you want and depending on how much you like your meat done. If you like your meat done a little bit more well, then you'll do chops. And ideally, you'll let those chops, after you season them with salt. Salt and pepper is all you need. You'll put them in the fridge uncovered overnight. That's just going to help them sear a little bit better. It's optional. I'm going to vacuum seal the chops with a little bit of butter and a sprig of rosemary or another herb. That's totally optional. You can just do salt and pepper. We're going to cook these for about 2 hours. An important thing is that you're going to go 5 degrees under the temperature that you want if you're cooking individual chops. This is very important. So I wanted these chops about medium rare, so I went for rare on the temperature, about 130, because we're going to sear these, and lamb chops are thin. So just take the chops after they're done, pat them dry, put them in the pan, brown them quickly on both sides. You need the pan on high heat, okay? High heat is very important here. You may need to open a window or turn the fan on, because it's got to be nice high heat to brown them without overcooking. And then we're going to let the chops rest. So just brown them, take them out of the pan, and let them rest on a paper towel for a few minutes. And one thing to note is that if you cook individual chops, this is not my preferred method. Okay, you're going to see my preferred method next. There might be some meat that it looks a little underdone on the rib bones. This is totally fine. You can spoon some oil over it as they cook to kind of cook that, or just roll with it. And with my temperature guidelines in the post on my recipe, that is how they're going to come out for individual chops. I don't like serving lamb medium rare. I serve lamb like a good, solid medium, maybe a tiny bit underneath. And don't forget to save the bones. I used to have a woman who would collect the bones from everyone in the family to take them home and chew on them. That's a thing. So don't forget to chew the bones. That's good. Okay, now if we're going to finish a rack, this is my preferred way to do it, because you're going to see the temperature is just super even. They're perfect rosé. This is how I serve them in restaurants. And once it comes out of the sous vide, we're going to just put in the pan and we're going to baste it. This is going to help us cook all the meat on those bones and just kind of cook the underside a little bit. We're just caramelizing that fat cap on the top and releasing the fat. And after you let it rest, that is what they're going to come out looking like. And these I actually cook at 140 degrees Fahrenheit, unlike the chops where I cook them a little bit less. With the fat cap, this may or may not be attached to your rack of lamb. What I'm going to do is take the fat cap, I'm going to score it a little bit just to help the fat render, and then there's also the meat from in between those rib bones. Season that with some salt, and just cut this into like half-inch cubes. And what you're going to do is just Dice this all up. We've already seasoned it with a little bit of salt, and just put it in a pan, in a cast iron pan, and you're going to bake this for an hour and a half until all of the fat comes out, and it is so good. Oh my God, this is like one of the best parts of the whole rack of lamb, if it is attached, which it may not be. So drain the fat off. The fat is excellent for cooking anything made with potatoes. And then the little cracklings there, they're not like cracklings because they're like half meat, half crackling. So they stay crispy if you cook them in a sauce. So the lamb fat is going to make incredible roasted potatoes, hash browns. All the recipes for these are on my site. And then the meat, you can cook that in a little chili sauce and use it for tacos. So good. There you go. Simple crash course on how to make sous vide rack of lamb, sous vide rack of lamb chops. All the recipes are in the post linked at the top of the video description on my website. Thanks for watching.